Hey everyone, welcome to my weekly episode of Show Me How It's Done. I am your host, Lauren Urbonis with Lauren Scraplot, and I am here in Canada if anybody needs a demonstrator or a catalog. So I am so excited to show you our project today. We have an early release bundle from the January to June catalog that is available for everyone right now. So you can buy the stamp set from this bundle as well as the dies, and those are going to be showing up in our next catalog. However, there are coordinating products also available right now. There's paper and some gems that you can get your hands on. And I do want to emphasize that these supplies are only available during the pre-order time and while supplies last. So if you fall in love with them for some reason because they're awesome, you probably want to put in an order right away just to make sure that you have them. They will not be coming out in the January to June catalog. And so if you want to continue playing with this set in combination with the items that I'm showing you today, make sure that you order them quickly. So as I mentioned, the Eden's Garden stamp set here, it does come with the option of a beautifully coordinated set of dies. I'm going to be using a couple of those dies on our project today to give you a few ideas of how you can use them. However, you can very clearly see that these dies can be used together with the set or apart from it as well. So if you're somebody who perhaps only is looking to expand your die collection, this is a gorgeous set of frames and edgings. Or if you're somebody who just loves stamping, then you could perhaps look at the Eden's Garden stamp set. This is one of our photorealism stamps, so you'll notice the different shadings. You don't have to stamp twice. That all comes out as soon as you stamp one time on your piece of paper. So it's a really nice stamp set with some gorgeous sentiments and some gorgeous leaves, and then this focal flower that we're going to kind of build our project around today. Also part of that suite that's available right now is cotton paper. Now I know you kind of think of this and you're like, well, what do I do with that? So I'm going to show you two options today. We're going to stamp on it and we're going to emboss on it. And then there are many, many other options that you can do as well. But this package comes with 4 sheets of Evening Evergreen and 4 sheets of Soft Succulent. And it is just a stunning package of paper to play with. There is also 12 by 12 specialty papers. So I'll show you a few of them, but I have used this now for multiple classes. So I've kind of put all my extras in one package. So you're going to be missing some of the designs here, but we'll get you the gist of it. One side has a special gold element to it, and then the other side would be a matte pattern. There's some ombre ones, there's some other textures. So there's 2 of each of the designs. As you can see, like this one, I have 3 because I just have extras from multiple packs. But it's a really stunning package with a few more designs that you can't see because I've used them all up. But that's okay. It is a $20 Canadian package, so $23.10 with shipping here, and which is really affordable for our specialty papers. Now, and then I did mention there's also some gems, but I don't have them on hand. So I'm going to show you how to make this really cute card. So I'm using some of the different dies, the little leaves, part of an arch, as well as the focal flower. And then we're going to do a little stamping here on the cotton paper. So you can't see it a ton, but if you're up close, you can see there's a difference in there's leaves stamped in the back here. Okay, so let me show you how to do that. If you'd like to follow along, my videos are available on YouTube for replay, or you can cut and follow along with me right now. So our base is going to be Soft Succulent. I've cut this at 5.5 by 8.5 and put a score mark at 4 1/4. I wanted a piece of paper to write on the inside, so I chose very vanilla or basic vanilla. And this one is measuring 4 inches by 5 1/4. And that I'm going to right now just put onto the inside of my card using some sort of flat adhesive. So seal, double-sided tape, whatever you prefer. But I like to get that out of my way. And if you want later, you could always add a strip of designer paper from your scraps to maybe the bottom edge here, or you can always stamp a few of those little flowers in the corner or leaves in here as well. Totally up to you. I'm just going to leave it blank for now. Now my front of the card here, I need, move that over so you can see it. There you go. I need a shadow background. So that is my evening evergreen here. This is 4 inches by 5 1/4. And we're popping this piece up on dimensionals and adding it to the very front of our card. So I wanted to give this just a little bit of lift so that your focus, you can see the difference between the two layers there. Here we go. So now my next piece that I need to worry about is this cotton paper. You can probably hear and see how it's different in thickness and build. So one of the sides of my cotton paper is very soft. This is the side that we're going to stamp on. And then you can see there's kind of a reflective side here. And that is the more water resistant side, which is great if you want to use this to wrap some treat in or something like that as well. So this piece I am going to cut at 3 3/4 by 5 inches, okay? And before we attach it to the card, we're going to do a couple things to it. So let's put our card base aside. I will walk you through the extra pieces you need in a minute, but let's worry about this guy for now. So what I've done is I've taken 4 of those little leaves from the stamp set and mounted them all on one block. So they're all together. I am going to put Evening Evergreen ink on top of them. And I'm just going to stamp a very subtle background here, okay? So once more, you don't need to really worry about this left-hand side because we are covering that with paper. So it's more the right-hand side that you just want to make sure you've gotten whatever you want into that space. Okay, and then like I said, don't worry about the opposite side here. So this is beautiful. The reason I'm doing this right now, and then I'm going to do some prep work, is so that it has a little bit of chance to dry, because you really do want that ink to soak into the cotton a bit. You will end up getting a little bit on your fingers when we do our next step, but if you stamp and then leave this for a few minutes, you'll have a better chance of staying cleaner. Okay, so we've stamped, hopefully I mentioned, not on the shiny side. We're stamping on that cotton feel side. Put this aside and let's get some other pieces prepped. Okay, so I am going to, for my little flower, I'm going to stamp on a piece of basic white, just using the Evening Evergreen ink. And then I'm going to fussy cut my flower out. Okay, so I've already done that. So mine's good to go. But I did want to show you guys just one little tip. So here's my like purposefully not great flower. Do you see how the tips of my flower kind of have a lot of shadowing on them? That's because I used a fully inked ink pad. Now, if I want a nice image the next time, I'm going to take like a plastic spoon or knife or your bone folder, and you're going to move the ink from the center of your ink pad. You won't really see it moving because this is so dark, but you're going to move the ink out of this center area so that now when I ink this up, And you can hopefully already see it's kind of distributed a little bit nicer. I think it's still even a little juicy. You really want barely anything in those areas. Okay, now when you stamp it on scrap, you don't have any of that shadowing around the edge. Okay, oh, here we go. This one's still shadowed. So do you see the tips of my flowers here? They still have that shadowing. This is my old one. And then now that I've moved that ink around and given myself almost kind of a really dry ink pad, I barely have any, because this is probably where I touched those edges that still had lots, but this center part is just so detailed and beautiful with no shadowing in there. So that's a neat little tip for you if you're wondering with any of the photorealism stamps why they're not really working. And then you'll just have to like gently move some of that ink back. This is one of the only stamping times where you actually don't want a really juicy ink pad to work with. And then make sure to wash this so it doesn't get ink everywhere on you. Okay, so we'll set that to the side. I need my fussy cut piece right here, so I'm going to keep that with me. My next piece that I'm going to cut is an arch. So if you remember from the Eden's Garden set, this round frame, I cut one of those and then I cut it in half, and it gave me 2 arches so that I can use those for now 2 different projects. So here's my arch. I just chopped it in half and I have 2 halves for a project. Okay, don't worry about taking out all these little pieces, because you actually almost kind of want them to look like solid greenery in behind what you're doing. So that's your little arch piece. We are also going to cut a few leaves. So where did I lose my leaves? Somewhere. Well, I'm going to steal them from this pile. Here we go. So you need 1 soft succulent and 2 evening evergreens. You will need 1 of these little frames from the Eden's Garden set. I cut that out with the metallic gold paper and embossed with a gold embossing powder. So I will show you in a minute how to emboss, but we're going to do that on paper. And then last but not least, we have just a piece of the Eden's Garden Designer Series paper. Whichever side you'd like to use, you're more than welcome. And it can be as wide or as short as you want it. You do need it 3 3/4 in height, but then you can range anywhere from 1.5 to 2 inches for this piece. This one here, I did make the full 2 inches, and if you wanted to go halfway, you could even do that too. So 2 inches by 3 3/4 for this. And a little strip of the gold metallic paper, 3 3/4 in height by 1/4 inch in width. Okay, so those are all our random little pieces that we're going to assemble on the card. Hopefully by now we've given our paper a little bit of chance to set. So here's the fun part. This is nice and pretty, and we're going to crunch it. We're going to crunch it so that we give this paper so much texture in the background. We don't need an embossing folder to do this. You literally just wad it up like you would a bubblegum wrapper. And then when you take it apart, you've got really, really nice texture to your paper. Okay, and you can kind of just smooth it out a little bit. There we go. So this piece is going to be our background, but I'm not going to attach all 4 corners of it. Instead, I'm going to just take a couple strips of adhesive, put them into the middle of my card base here, so that none of my corners really are touching. And then I'm going to rest my cotton paper on top of this section. Okay, so we flattened it out a little bit so that we generally know where it's going to sit. I like to put my middle down first and then just kind of move outward so that my outside edge here still has lots of life, okay? This left side is going to get covered a bit when we add our designer series paper. So same sort of adhesive on the back of that. Whatever you are using is great. This is going to go over top of the whole left-hand side of the cotton paper so that you still have a bit of an evergreen border, okay? So it's gone over that whole piece. I've still got a border here. And then just to tie these two parts together, that's where I'm bringing in that little gold strip. I've put double-sided tape on the back, and I'm just going to run it right up the center here. Okay. Oh, cut you a little short. Oh, I can fix that later. Okay, so here's my main part of the card. Here I can start adding whatever decals I want. So I'm going to start with my arch, and I want that to be right in the middle of my background space. So I'm putting dimensionals anywhere that has like a large cluster of leaves so that we're not seeing it through to the back. Another reason why it's okay to just leave some of those green leaves in your die. And this goes right in the background in the center. Okay, so there's my arch. I would like to put my sentiment next. So this hello there die, I'm going to put dimensionals right in the middle section. I don't actually need it on the ends because the ends are going to rest on the two sides of my arch and I don't need them weirdly popped up. So just right down here at the bottom. Hello there. Now is completely up to you. You can add your flower first, or you can start adding these little green leaves. Whatever you want is fine. Maybe I'll do the greenery so you can see how I did it. So I took a glue dot just on the bottom leaf. And this one I'm just going to tuck into this bottom corner. You don't want it hanging over the card, otherwise it won't fit in your envelope. Same thing, bottom leaf just gets a little glue dot. And this one is just going to get tucked, kind of crossing over that gold line. And the greenery right there. Now to attach my flower, I want it only popped up the same height that my archway and my tag are. So that means I'm only going to put dimensionals onto my archway and then just a little bit of tape maybe on the tag so that it has something else to attach to. Okay. And then this flower can make sure it doesn't cover any words for you, but can go just right in there, like so. And then the fun thing is, because we didn't attach any of these down, you can actually pick one of those corners and bend paper to give you just a little bit of fun, a fun way to look at it. Okay, so there's card option number 1. We've featured some stamping in our background. It's really subtle, but it does make a little bit of a difference when you're up close and you can actually see the leaves. And then we have used just a ton of the die pieces. Now what happens if you want a background that is a little bit more pronounced? So let's step this up and let's chat about embossing on this cotton paper so that you have a really vibrant background. Instead of choosing another designer series paper, let's emboss. Okay, so basically same card layout, but I'm going to show you how to heat emboss, and then my only difference is I've added a couple little gems into the flower center just to bling it up a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to set these two aside. If you're following along, I will post pictures, or you can kind of just look at this guy for a second. But let's say you wanted to do a little bit of embossing. Measurements are all the same. So you'll remember this cotton paper is 3 3/4 by 5. Now I do need to wash my little set of leaves here. I'm using my Simply Chamois, which, you know, comes purple when you buy it, but after numerous uses turns black, and that's fine. As long as you keep rinsing it out, it will work wonders. Okay, so there, my stamps are super clean already. And don't need them at the moment. Okay, I'm going to need Versamark ink, some gold embossing powder, and my heat tool. So I have all those ready. I'm going to take my Versamark ink, stamp it all over these 4 little leaves, stamp them up in the top. You cannot see this at all. So if you're not a confident stamper with like knowing where you just stamped, then put some embossing powder on right now. I'm gonna hope that I did this right and can keep going. And I'm just gonna add a couple little details to my project, okay? You can't see any of that. So I've got this little fun tray that I can do my embossing in. And I'm just gonna sprinkle embossing powder all over this. So I'm covering all the spaces that I would have stamped. Once again, not worrying about putting anything on that left-hand side because nobody's gonna see it. So why do the work? Okay, and then shake it off. There we go. I also can just turn this over and kind of flick it just in case there's anything that got caught. So that's pretty good. I am happy with that. I need to heat it now. Okay, so you will notice when you're heating this paper, it is very fragile compared to our cardstock because it's so thin. And so you want to keep your heat tool a little further away than you typically would. It may also start to bend, but that's okay. That's why it's so perfect for this card, because we're going to end up crumpling it anyways. We don't need that nice flat look. When you're embossing, you can emboss on either side of the paper. It can be on the cotton side if you want it to kind of set a little nicer, or if you do want that shininess from the other side, it will work over there too. So see how well this works. You won't be able to hear me, but I will stop halfway to show you the difference between embossed and not embossed. Okay, I'm just going to stop there for a second. So you can see these ones up here, they're very nice and shiny. These guys over here, they still look very powdery and dull. That is, I'll even zoom in for you. Zoom, zoom, zoom a little bit. Okay, so you can see the difference. So these ones are not embossed yet. go. Okay, so there's my beautiful little piece. And I can see the sun's starting to come out. Okay, so just like we did with the other card here, we're going to just crumple this piece. You don't have to let it dry because there's no ink on there. And I've cut exactly the same pieces as I did before. So there's my arch, my little sentiment, there's my divider paper, and I'm still missing a leaf, so that's fine. Here's my embossed piece, and I did rip it a little bit, but that's fine. That'll get covered. So same idea, put a little bit of tape in the center here. And put your embossed cotton paper in the middle. Down. And go ahead and add your designer paper. And your gold. So you can see this comes together really nicely. If you don't end up wanting to do all the work with the cotton paper, you can always just cut a piece. It will give you a really nice texture difference between your two spots. Or you can always cut some more designer series paper if you like this layout, but you don't necessarily want to do all the extra work with the cotton. But I do think that sometimes we're afraid of using a few different textures on a card, like this ruffled and a smooth. And don't be. Like, the whole point of crafting is to just play with what you have and see what you can make out of it. So don't worry about trying new things. They will surprise you sometimes, I think, with what you can actually come up with. Okay, so I think I'm only going to go up to this point here, just because assembling the rest of the card will be entirely the same. The only difference, like I mentioned, was on this card here. I ended up taking some of my gold gilded gems and I just added a little focal piece in the center of the card. Okay, so card number 1, where we've done some stamping. Card number 2, where we've done a little bit of embossing and some jewels. I have one, oh, I should show you this. I embossed on the Evening Evergreen piece as well. And I thought that was really pretty too. That sun is not nice. Okay, so last and final card, not going to build it for you, I'm just going to show you, is a Christmas version of this card as well, because, you know, the season is upon us and maybe you need something that looks sort of like a poinsettia for your project. So my background for this would have been the same as project 1, where I just stamped a little, but I will also play with using an embossed piece in behind there at some point because I think that would be gorgeous. I stepped it up with the gilded gems and my little focal leaves here, they were stamped with cherry cobbler. My sentiment was also just Season's Greetings instead of a stamp that I found in the Eden's Garden. They didn't really have any Christmas stamps, so I just took this out of one of our other seasonal sets. But everything else is the same. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's projects. I will be posting all the measurements and all the supplies in my YouTube comments, so if you have any questions, let me know. If you enjoyed today's video, it would help me out so much if you guys could just click like and subscribe to my channel, and I'd really just appreciate your support. I look forward to crafting with you all next week. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Bye!